I just got a great comment from David here, and he just says, hey, I just noticed that when you typed the IP address of Google, I noticed it auto-corrected to google.com. So I think you should take that into consideration. Also, that's probably so that you don't get confused on where you are. I just wanted to mention that. Now that's a great comment. This is what he was talking about. So in the video, we pinged google.com. So we'll do that. And you can see it's pinging. Let's just Control-C to stop that. And you can see here the IP address. So what we did is we copied it. And then we pasted it over here. So just before I press enter, you'll notice as soon as I press enter, it changes to google.com. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to type in curl www.google.com. Whoa. Okay, what is all this? Well, let me just scroll to the top so you can see our command we've just typed in here. Here you go. So believe it or not, this is actually the homepage of Google. So your web browser can read all of this and turn it into this. So let's go on here. Let's view page source. So view page source there. Now this is the same as all of this here. So let me just click on this so you can see. Let me just highlight here. You can see the top here is the same as the top here. I'm just going to scroll down here and let's type in just clear here. Just clear. Okay, so that's cleared. So I'm just going to do curl and then the IP address of google.com, which is this. So there. So you can see we've got something a lot shorter. So when we typed in the IP address here, why didn't it give us this web page? Why did it give us this instead? Well, let's look a bit deeper. Let's do curl, but then let's do -i here, -i. Okay, you can see we get something a little bit different here. So we've got the web page, obviously, there, the same as before. But we've got this thing at the top. This is the header. And you can see just here, it has a little number, 301, and it says moved permanently. Now, what this means is when you put your IP address into the web browser, it goes to google.com, but then Google says, we don't like that, it's moved permanently, and the location is, it's moved permanently to google.com. So that's why when we type in the IP address here, it changes to do google.com. That sounded really confusing, so I'm just going to break it down. So when we type in whatever we typed in this in our address bar in our web browser, it sends a request header to Google. Now, what is a request header? Well, that's just things such as cookies or the user agent, which is the type of web browser that you're using, and many other things, but it also is what you've typed in your address bar. In this case, we've typed in the IP address. So that's going to Google, and then the Google will give a response header. Now that's got things such as cookies again, but we're just picking out what this is here. Now this 301 means that it's permanently moved. Now Google knows what you want anyways. It could give you the HTML page, but for some reason it doesn't like us typing in the IP address, so it gives us our code 301, which means permanently moved. And this is just what it's permanently moved to, www.google.com. And so that is why it changed from our IP address to www.google.com. So then, of course, this is going to go to Google, and this time the response header is going to be 200. Now, 200 just means it's okay and it's all good, and it will give you the right HTML page. Now, there are a few other codes that it could give you. For example, 404, not found. Now, this is very common. You know, there's t-shirts and everything, and most of you will probably have heard of it. This just means that if what you've typed in here, if it doesn't even exist, that's why it gives you this. So, request header, what the web browser sends to the web server, and response header, what the web server sends replies back to your web browser. Now in this case we've just picked out the response codes like 301, 200 and 404. In this case permanently moved, all good and not found. There are others, and there are other things in the request headers and the response header. Let's see if we can get one of those 404s. So let's do curl-i. www.google.com slash let's go Bob. Haha, there we go, our famous 404 not found. So I just was logged out of my sister's Raspberry Pi, so I've just had to quickly SSH back. So I'm here again, and I was just going to say, instead of using ping to get the IP address, we can use something called host. Now this is a lot easier way of getting the IP address, so I'm just going to do google.com. And then you can see that it's just printed the IP address just here, nice and simple. Now I'm just going to keep doing this, and you'll notice that here I should get a different IP address. Yes, there. You can see I've got different IP address. Now why has it given me two different IP addresses? Now, if you can imagine how many people are trying to access Google at the moment, that's going to be a lot of people. So that would be a massive load, and if that was on one computer, it would be a humongous load for just one computer. So Google will have many different computers with many different IP addresses, hence why it's given us different IP addresses, and I assume these will be two computers that are probably closer to me, and the one it's given me will probably be the one with the least load. Now I'd also expect if you guys did the same thing, we'd get a completely different IP address once again. I'm just going to do the same for googleapps.com, and if we kept reloading this and doing it again, it would give us the same IP address because there's not as many people trying to access googleapps.com than there are trying to access google.com, so we only need one computer, so that'll just be one IP address. I just wanted to quickly mention curl. I'll be doing a video about it, but I won't be doing that for a while, so if you want to research what curl is, then feel free to do that. I really hope you learned something and picked up something new. Thank you so much, David, and I hope that's helped some of you guys wondering the same thing out there. I really hope you liked this video, and see you next time.